The Mind's Divided House. An exploration of internal family systems. They used to say the mind was one, a singular voice, with one will, one center. And yet, people kept behaving like they were many. Contradictions weren't rare. They were constant. One part of you wants to stay. Another part wants to run. One part wants to succeed. Another sabotages everything. We call it confusion. We call it being human. But maybe it's more than that. This is where internal family systems begins. Not in theory, but in observation. In the quiet confession of a client saying a part of me wants to disappear, and meaning it. Literally. Richard Schwartz didn't try to dismiss these parts. He listened. And what emerged was not chaos, but structure, an internal system, a mind behaving like a family. IFS doesn't treat parts as symptoms. It treats them as protectors. Each part has a role. Each one is doing something it believes will keep you safe. There are the exiles. These are the parts we locked away long ago. The ones carrying wounds no one else wanted to see. Shame, helplessness, abandonment. They were pushed out, not because they were wrong, but because they were overwhelming. Then there are the managers. These parts organize your life. They prevent the pain from surfacing. They are the voices of perfectionism, control, silence. If you hear a part say, "Don't mess this up," you're hearing a manager speak. But managers fail. And when they do, the firefighters come rushing in. These parts don't ask questions. They just act. They numb you, distract you, drown you. Through addiction, through rage. They are not malicious. They're desperate. And at the center of it all is something different, something deeper. A self, not a part, but a presence, curious, calm, compassionate. The self is not wounded, it's hidden. IFS believes that healing doesn't come from controlling parts, but from listening to them, from meeting them with the self. When you do that, something changes. Not just emotionally, but neurologically. Systems begin to trust. Protective roles soften. The past begins to unfreeze. It's not about integration. It's about relationship. In trauma therapy, this matters. You don't drag someone into their memories. You help them meet the parts that are still trapped in those memories. You don't force the exile to speak. You ask permission. And only when the system feels safe does the burden begin to lift. There's a word Schwartz uses often, unblending. It means stepping back, not being swallowed by a part. You don't say I'm ashamed. You say a part of me feels shame. That shift is everything. It's the beginning of self-leadership. You're not rejecting the part. You're sitting beside it, asking what it needs. And for many of these parts, that's the first time they've been asked. We begin to see something striking the more we study IFS. These parts aren't random. They aren't noise. They're deeply organized and, often predictable. Across clients, patterns emerge. A harsh inner critic. That voice almost always turns out to be a manager. Its purpose isn't cruelty. It believes that if it shames you first, others won't get the chance. It believes humiliation is a shield. And when that manager fails, when something gets through, another part might push you to binge, to isolate, to disappear. This isn't dysfunction. It's sequencing. A system trying to preserve itself. It is here that IFS separates itself from older therapeutic models. It doesn't ask how do we get rid of this behavior. It asks what is this part protecting. In doing so, it shifts the entire therapeutic stance from judgment to inquiry. Take, for example, a young adult caught in a loop of procrastination. In a traditional model, the aim might be behavioral correction, time management skills, accountability partners, discipline. In IFS, we look at the parts. We ask, what does the procrastinating part believe will happen if you act? Often, you find fear. A fear that if you begin the work, you'll be exposed as inadequate. That part delays, Not because it's lazy, but because it's protecting an exile who still remembers a moment of public shame. This is how IFS unravels the complexity. Not by dissecting symptoms, but by listening to the logic within them. The logic of protectors, the legacy burdens they carry, and the origin of those burdens, often shaped in childhood, often inherited from systems larger than the self, family, culture, trauma. In this model, healing begins not with correction, but with connection. Parts are not removed, they are repurposed. Their burden is not their nature, it is what they carry. Therapists working within IFS often remark that the work feels sacred, because when a part speaks, it is often the first time it has ever been heard. And beneath its protective stance, what it wants is almost always the same: safety, relief, belonging. The self can offer that, not through coercion, but through presence. The self doesn't argue, it listens. And when parts sense that calm, compassionate core, they soften. This is not a quick fix. IFS is not a technique, it is a lens. A way of seeing the mind, not as a monolith, but as an ecosystem, in balance or in conflict, but always trying to protect something vital. And when we recognize that, we stop asking what's wrong with me, asking which part of me is trying to help. That question alone changes everything. From here, we move deeper into the system, understanding exile trauma, burden, release, and the process of unblending in practice. And maybe that's the most revolutionary part of all. In a world obsessed with performance and pathology, IFS reminds us that we are not broken. We are patterned, we are protective, we are many, and beneath it all, we are still here,